Wealth was not just accumulated, it was displayed, flaunted, and woven into daily life. Wealth is useless if it cannot move, and Rome understood this. Rome minted coins in staggering numbers, stamped with the faces of emperors. Rebellions, like the famous uprising of Spartacus, reminded Rome that wealth built on bondage carried a cost. The rise of the Roman Empire's wealth. A tale of power. A tale of fortune. And a lesson for all of history. Close your eyes and imagine the heart of Rome at its height. Marble columns gleaming under the Italian sun, the roar of voices rising from the forum, merchants haggling, senators plotting, generals parading with loot from distant conquests. Rome was not merely a city, it was the beating heart of an empire that commanded wealth beyond imagination. But how did this wealth come to be? What forces shaped it? And what lessons does it leave us today? The story begins with conquest. Rome did not rise through peaceful trade alone. The Roman legions marched outward, swallowing territories piece by piece.
Mind your step there. Watch the ropes.
From the fertile plains of Egypt to the silver mines of Spain, from the bustling ports of the eastern Mediterranean to the misty hills of Gaul, Rome built an empire on the spoils of war. Victory brought slaves, gold, grain, and tribute. Defeated kings were forced to pour their treasuries into Rome's coffers. Carthage was ground into dust, its lands salted, and its wealth absorbed. Greece, once the beacon of culture, became a province supplying art, philosophy, and riches to its conquerors. Each conquest did more than enlarge borders. It transformed Rome's economy. Grain from Egypt fed its masses. Silver from Spain fueled its currency. Exotic luxuries from the East, silks, spices, and precious stones flowed through Roman markets. A Roman senator walking down the Via Sacra might wear a Greek cloak, recline on Egyptian linens, and sip wine sweetened with honey from Hispania. Wealth was not just accumulated, it was displayed, flaunted, and woven into daily life. Yet Rome's genius lay not only in conquest, but in infrastructure. Wealth is useless if it cannot move, and Rome understood this. They built roads, over 50,000 miles of stone-paved highways stretching across Europe, Africa, and Asia. All roads lead to Rome was not just a saying, it was economic strategy. Soldiers marched on these roads, but so did caravans of goods. Olive oil from Hispania, glass from Syria, marble from Greece, all could flow smoothly into the capital. Aqueducts carried fresh water into the city, enabling urban life on a scale the ancient world had never seen. Public baths, fountains, and gardens flourished. The Colosseum itself, that grand stage of Roman entertainment, was funded by conquest and fed by taxes on empire. The city of Rome became a living advertisement for wealth and power. designed to awe both citizens and visitors. Markets were the lifeblood of this wealth. The Roman Forum was more than a political stage. It was an economic hub. Traders shouted their wares. Contracts were signed, deals sealed. Merchants from as far as India and China brought goods overland and by sea, feeding the empire's hunger for luxury. Silk from the east was so prized that senators worried it was draining Rome's gold reserves. Spices, perfumes, ivory, and jewels filled the villas of the elite. But wealth was not evenly shared. At the top, the senatorial and equestrian classes amassed fortunes unimaginable to the common citizen. A single noble might own estates spanning thousands of acres, worked by hundreds of slaves captured in war. Villas glittered with mosaics, marble statues, and fountains that never ceased to flow. Banquets overflowed with exotic dishes: peacock, flamingo, even dormice stuffed with honey. Meanwhile, the poor crowded into insulae, rickety apartment blocks where fire and collapse were constant threats. Bread and circuses, free grain distributions, and public games were designed to keep the masses quiet while the elite indulged in excess. Currency and finance played their part. Rome minted coins in staggering numbers, stamped with the faces of emperors, spreading both propaganda and stability. Denarii, sestertii, and auri passed through countless hands. Money changers set up stalls in marketplaces, lending, borrowing, and speculating. Banking houses grew, financing trade voyages and large estates. Rome, in many ways, created one of the first globalized economies. Slavery, however, was the true engine of Roman wealth. Conquests brought waves of captives who became the workforce of empire. They tilled fields, mined silver, built roads, and staffed households. For the wealthy, slaves were status symbols as well as labor. A rich Roman might own hundreds, from cooks and tutors to secretaries and gladiators. The system created immense productivity for the elite, but it also sowed seeds of unrest. Rebellions, like the famous uprising of Spartacus, reminded Rome that wealth built on bondage carried a cost. Corruption seeped into this golden world. Senators grew fat from provincial taxes. Governors extorted local populations, and fortunes were made not only by trade and conquest, but also by graft and greed. Rome's wealth was dazzling, but it was also fragile. Inflation struck as emperors debased the currency. Coinage was diluted, trust eroded. Over time, maintaining the vast empire became a burden heavier than the treasures it supplied. And so, decline began. As Rome expanded beyond its ability to govern efficiently, military expenses skyrocketed. Armies required constant pay. Fortifications consumed resources. Trade routes were threatened by pirates and invasions. The wealth that once flowed freely began to dry. The lavish feasts of the elite contrasted painfully with the empty purses of soldiers and farmers. Rome's wealth, once a source of strength, became part of its undoing. The empire's appetite for luxury drained its coffers. Its reliance on conquest meant that peace brought economic stagnation. Inequality sharpened, resentment grew, and stability crumbled. By the time Rome fell, its grandeur remained in monuments, but its economic engine had sputtered to ruin. Yet the story does not end in ashes. The legacy of Rome's wealth endured. Its roads became the skeleton of Europe's trade routes for centuries. Its coins influenced monetary systems long after emperors were gone. Its laws and contracts shaped the very idea of commerce and property. Even today, when we walk through Rome's ruins, we are reminded of an empire that understood how wealth could shape destiny. The rise of Roman wealth is more than ancient history. It is a mirror. It shows us how power and fortune can build wonders, and how unchecked greed and imbalance can erode even the mightiest empires. Rome rose to greatness because it mastered the art of wealth, and it fell because it failed to master its own excess. You've been watching Wealth Untold, where the hidden stories of money, empires, and fortune come alive. If you enjoyed this journey into the riches of Rome, don't forget to follow and stay tuned. Tomorrow, we uncover another chapter of history's greatest fortunes and misfortunes.